all, thank you for joining me today. Candace Gillespie here from Candace'sCanvases.com, and this is Cards Monday. Today we are going to make an adorable, elegant card, and I learned this technique, not everything about this technique, but just cutting it up and such, from an online card class I'm taking. It's called onlinecardclasses.com. You can go there and sign up for different classes. It's really cool. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to take some Sahara Sand and Perfect Plum and some Blushing Bride ink, and I'm going to slather it randomly over this beautiful embossing folder. Once I feel like I've got some good coverage, I'm going to give it a little quick mist with a Stampin' Mister, and I'm going to put on a piece of Whisper White cardstock. Now this piece measures 4 by 5 1/4. You'll need 2 of those pieces, and then for later you'll need a 3 3/4 by 5 1/4 piece. While you're cutting it out, might as well cut them all out. Okay, here's our piece. I absolutely love the way it turned out. Now you can use it just like this. I'm going to go ahead and give it some more aging and fun looks. So to do that, I grabbed my dictionary background stamp and my Versamark ink, and I'm going to emboss this. So of course I'm going to use my embossing buddy, spread that all over there first, then ink up my background stamp, and place my card on it, design side down, and then using a scratch piece of paper, I'm just going to rub my fingers all over that. Now I'm bringing in some clear stamp emboss powder, and I'm going to cover this entire piece of cardstock. Okay, flicking off any extra. Now I'm bringing in my heat tool, warming it up on my hand there, just testing it. My son's testing it. And then I move it, of course, and I move him once it gets hot enough. And I give it a go. Okay, now we're going to do some distressing using Blushing Bride Classic Stampin' Ink and a Stampin' Sponge. Now I take my Stampin' Sponges and I cut them in 1/8, and I use a clothespin to pinch them, and I write the designated color on the clothespin, and then I have those in designated drawers on the side here, so I never have contaminated stamping sponges, which is nice. Now once that's done, I'm going to just take a cloth here, a tissue, and wipe off the excess ink that might be sitting on top of that embossed image. Now I'm going to use some Sahara Sand, and I'm going to do the same thing, only I'm going to be more selective. I'm not going to do this around all edges. I'm going to do it in the middle, and I'm going to do it around the edges only in certain spots. So it's kind of a hit and miss. I'm going to wipe off the ink that's sitting on top of the embossed image. And look at how awesome this is turning out. Okay, now that that's done, I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Trimmer and zoom out a little bit for you. And I actually took my calculator and I calculated 4 1/4 divided by 2, and that gave me half. So I cut this in half, and then I took those halves, turned it sideways, and cut that in half, and then I took those halves and cut those in half. Make sure you don't mix up your pieces though. I mixed them up, and it took me forever to try to discern the lettering on the dictionary embossed image, but on the very underneath, it was very difficult. Now I'm taking all the pieces, and I am distressing it with the Early Espresso ink. Now this is where the 3 1/4 by 5 1/4 piece of cardstock comes in. You're going to use some dimensionals and pop those up on that piece of paper, and just trim off any excess you may have, because you're spacing them out like a 1/16 of an inch. It'll run over on one end and not on the other, so that's fine. You basically want the hangover to be on the two left and right sides there. Okay, now we're going to make our card base using our Stampin' Trimmer. We're cutting a 4 1/4 by 11 inch piece of cardstock, and we're cutting that or scoring that in half at 5 1/2. So it's going to be a top folding card that measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm going to bring in my favorite linen thread. I'm going to wrap this round a few times. Let me count. 1, 2, did I do 3 or 4 times? Can't, oh, 4 it looks like, okay. And then I'm going to use my craft scissors to cut that off. Those craft scissors cut through things like this, like butter. They're amazing. I know I say that every time, but I'm really protective of them too when I bring them to my craft classes and things. I'm like, okay, these are only used for ribbon or fabric or linen thread. Don't use my craft scissors on paper. Okay, tie that in a nice bow and cut off any excess that's hanging. Okay, now I've loaded that thing up with dimensionals, and I'm going to center that onto my card front there. Then I have, I'm going to bring in some vellum cardstock, and I'm just going to cut out a piece that will fit this beautiful wings embosslet here. And I'm going to bring in the fabulous Big Shot die cutting machine and put that vellum in between that embosslet. I'm going to use tab 1 on my, gosh, what is that called? My brain is blanking right now. But you know, the cutting mat, the platform. Ooh, okay. So here they are embossed, and it embosses the images and it cuts them out for you. So I love these little things. We have 3 different kinds. One's a hearts one and one's a button ones. I need to get both of those because I love these. And then I'm going to choose 3 of these 5 to put on the outside. And all I'm doing is I'm kind of folding it in half, putting some Tombow on there, and then just pressing it down in the center. So it has a little bit of lift on either side of the wings, but it's mostly stuck down in the center. So I think I'm taking the 3 largest butterflies and placing those randomly on the front. Then I'm going to bring in some pearl basic jewels, and I'm going to use a small, medium, large on each of the, coordinating the small to the smallest butterfly, etc. And I'm using my paper piercing tool to grab those and place them where I want them. Okay, I love how this card turned out. It's just so beautiful. Okay, now here's where I used my second 4 by 5 1/4 piece of Whisper White cardstock for the inside. I'm going to do the same thing with the same embossing folder, just putting on some Blushing Bride, Sahara Sand, and Perfect Plum Classic Stampin' Ink randomly all over this card or embossing folder. This time, however, I don't need it so dark. It's going to be on the inside. You need to be able to write on it with a basic ballpoint pen. So what I'm doing is I am doing the same thing, only I'm putting a scratch paper on there to stamp it off, ink, get that ink off first. And then I'm going to use the 2nd generation ink on my Whisper White cardstock. And take it out, and it's on there, it's just lighter. It's not on there as heavily, which is nice. Okay. Now I'm going to speed it up a little bit because you've seen me do this. I'm just taking my Blushing Bride, and I'm going to distress all the edges, and I'm going to bring it in toward the middle lightly. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did with my Sahara Sand. I'm going to hit and miss and bring in that darker Sahara Sand. Now here's the Bloom with Hope Hostess stamp set. This is only available if you earn Hostess benefits. And leave a comment below if you're interested on knowing how to do that. You cannot order this just regularly unless you qualify for Hostess dollars. So I'll let you know how to do that. Now I'm stamping the Happy Birthday from this stamp set on my Stamp-A-Majig imaging sheet. And I'm bringing in a strip of vellum cardstock. It's about 3/4 by 7 inches. And I'm stamping it a little bit closer to the right. I should have anyway, because you'll see how I line it up on my card. And I'm going to emboss that. I'm stamping that with Versamark and then embossing it with white Stamp Emboss powder. Okay, see how I'm aligning it a little to the right there? Should have stamped it a little more in the center, but it's okay. I have plenty to work with here, because all I'm doing is I'm bending the excess vellum and I'm taping it to the back of the card base here. And I have just enough left on that side to tape it down, so it works fine. Now I'm using Tombow to glue it down to my card base. Centering that on there. What I did have to do, I did cut it out, but I did end up putting a little squeeze of Tombow under where it says happy birthday, because it did kind of want to bubble up the vellum, but that's fine. That you cannot see the Tombow under it, so that's great. Okay, now the remaining 2 butterflies, I'm totally out of frame here. I do apologize for that, but I'm just centering them, not centering them at all. I'm placing them on the kind of mid-lower left corner there. And I'm putting a tiny pearl and then the small pearl in the center of those. And that sums up the elegant card. This happens to be a birthday card. You can make this an anniversary card or any kind of card you'd like. Thank you so much for watching. You guys are amazing to me. And thank you for subscribing to my channel and for liking this video and for leaving a joyful comment. Feel free to visit Candace'sCanvases.com, where you can get more inspiration, see past videos. You can join my team there, which would be my honor. And you can shop my Stampin' Up! Store and my homemade goods. This card is available in my homemade goods store. So we'll see you again for Scrappy Wednesday. Have a great day. Until then, bye.